Milwaukee is raising a few eyebrows with the mayor's newest choice to lead the city's violence prevention office. Not only is the new director a convicted murderer, but a man that skipped both rounds of public hearings. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel with a story that I will definitely be interested to see your take in the comments. Government offices of violence prevention and wellness are already kind of controversial things, but Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson also made a controversial choice this week by announcing a new office director, one that did not go through the public hearings, was not vetted by the public, did not get a vote, and was not in the list of finalists. So, on August 18th, Mayor Johnson announced that a man by the name of Adam Purcell would be the new head of the city's Office of Community Wellness and Safety, previously called the Office of Violence Prevention. According to the city website, the office basically contracts out other people, agencies, and resources that claim to reduce domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, human trafficking, gun violence, and homicide. They have a human trafficking task force and what they call promise zones, which are designated areas in the city the government says it's focusing on to create jobs, reduce crime, and improve educational opportunities without any spelled out plan of how they're doing it beyond a, quote, multi-pronged approach. The office as a whole says that its job is to define violence, research the causes, design plans to combat it, and adopt those plans. So their plan is to create a plan. Now, I have seen charities and nonprofits do some great work in these arenas, but I'm always skeptical when government swoops in and makes plans to make plans to make plans, paying all the state workers along the way and diluting the help with a bunch of red tape and administrative paychecks. I mean, that is, after all, what government does best. Besides, ruin your life and take your stuff. The office has also changed hands a few times this year. One director left in January, another took over in the interim, and now this new guy, Purcell, was announced on Monday. The city put possible directors through 2 rounds of hearings where they were able to take questions from the public. The top 3 finalists included Karen Tyler, the interim director, and a man who was previously the director of another violence prevention office in Louisville and has a violence prevention consulting company, and finally a manager for Orlando's Children, Youth, and Families Division, aka CPS, as well as other child development and violence prevention things. So the city made a big announcement, held these hearings, made a big public to-do, and then on Monday announced someone not on the list got the job. That is Adam Purcell, CEO of a consulting firm called Paradigm Shift, which says they work on re-entry for people getting out of jail. His claims to fame, at least according to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, are a special deck of cards with resources for men and women on parole and a monthly job fair. He also went to jail for murder in 1995 after killing a rival gang member at the age of 15, was given a life sentence, spent some time in Supermax, and then was paroled out in 2018. He said the goal of the deck of cards is for prisoners to be able to subconsciously recognize the logos of helpful organizations when they get out. And that's pretty much all that the Sentinel had to report on this guy. The consulting firm may or may not do good work. It's hard to tell as there's zero information on their website. A 2023 write-up about Purcell's job fairs said that year about 85 people had gone every month, but the year before, the job fair only had 10 people show up. That same year, he was awarded $225,000 as undiscovered talent to address inequality. He said he planned to use the money to buy a shuttle that would serve as a mobile unit to help recently paroled people sign up for bank accounts and health insurance. As a former therapist, I believe in change. I believe that people can look at their mistakes and change their lives around for the better. I even spent a couple years working especially with men and women on probation and parole, helping them get on the right path to a more productive life for themselves and their families. It can be done if the person is willing to put in the work. But I've also seen these offices of violence prevention, like the one in Milwaukee, hire people or contract out to folks who have not done the work, who get sucked back into the lifestyle while being surrounded by it all the time in these programs, and who end up going back to a life of crime for whatever reason. I've covered this thing several times on the channel. Now, in the beginning, I said that I would be interested to hear your guys' take on this, and here is why. The reporting on this is kind of odd because diving more into this guy and his history showed that he might be kind of legit, but all that part of things is really buried. He spent 4 years in solitary confinement and said that that was when he found God. He used that time to write a book about the dangers of gang culture and what contributes to it, spoke to teens about gang culture and how it ruins your life, at one point even gave TED Talks, and was billed as an undercover police officer when speaking to other officers and gang members to try and give him more credibility. And he has been trying to raise money to help parolees get job training, jobs, healthcare, and mental health care to reduce recidivism rates. It definitely was interesting that most of the articles on him focus on that deck of cards and the job fair that initially sounded like a failure. He might be more qualified to help people navigate the system than someone who has never been in the system, but the fact that he's also been on the city's radar since at least 2023, yet was not publicly considered for the role, skipped all the public-facing process, and was a surprise to everyone else involved is a little sketchy. I would be far less skeptical if there had been transparency and if his public hearing wasn't getting scheduled for after he was already given the job. After the announcement, the mayor said that initially Purcell didn't even apply for the role, but that the mayor just thought of him during the process, but apparently didn't think about him until after everyone else was vetted and paraded out in public. Purcell also declined to announce any sort of plan, what he hopes to achieve, or how he will measure the office's success. So all in all, it's a very odd situation, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one. I think that these government offices are mostly bull. Historically, they don't achieve much in the areas where they're started. Sometimes they're only aimed at pushing gun control. Sometimes they recognize some of the root factors in areas with a lot of crime, but then try to fix it with gun buybacks and tone-deaf programs, or by proposing universal incomes. This guy seems like he might be a better choice than a plain old bureaucrat, but the circumstances of him getting the job don't seem right. At least as far as I can tell, he doesn't blame everything on guns, which is a plus, but I think that I would be more inclined to believe he's doing some good if he stayed in the private sector. So again, let me know down in the comments what you think. I know that I have some current and former law enforcement in my audience, and I know that I also have some folks that have done time. When we consider the fact that the guy is now in his 40s and did his crime when he was 15, that adds an element to it, but also when you consider then that he's only been out for 7 years, that also raises some questions. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this video. I just thought it was an interesting story, and I had a knee-jerk reaction to it in the beginning until I noticed all the biased reporting, and now I'm kind of on the fence here. But anyways, that's it for this video. You guys know the drill for all of the algorithm things. Please do them, and as always, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and happy shooting.